Hi, Slim. Thank you so much for joining me on the Black Ink Cinema podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me on, Rachel. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Oh, bless you. You've been dubbed the king of the Black British comedy circuit, and I've been a fan forever. But before we get into your extremely deep Black cinema film choice, we just want to have a quick chat about you.
That's fine, no problem.
So you were the first Black British act invited to perform at the Hollywood Comedy Store. Do you feel a sense of responsibility for being the first?
No, strange enough, Rachel, I didn't even know I was the first.
Have I just told you that?
No, I was aware of it. But what I mean is, it weren't until I was in America and I had finished performing, someone said to me that one of the Comedy Store owners, you know, you're the first Black British act we've had here in all of our history. And I was like, for real? You know, someone tells you a fact, you just, like, for real? So I thought, well, that's a nice fact. Do I feel responsibility? No, I shouldn't, because I didn't know that was the fact about me.
I guess you found out afterwards. So it was
found out afterwards. So it wasn't like they told me before I went on stage or they made a big hurrah about it. It was just like an after mention in a conversation after I've performed. And I performed a role. So that is that's a big thing.
Yeah. Is that where you met Kevin Hart?
No, I met Kevin Hart. There's a promoter over here called Harmony Productions, Kennedy. He brought Kevin Hart over here on a tour. So this is 2004, I think. So 16 years ago, a good little while ago. He brought him over. We toured. And they were sold out tours. And he done very well. I mean, he was initially known in the Black community for films like Soul Plane, Paper Soldiers. So he had been at that level of fame at the time that he came over. So 16 years is a good little while.
So what's your relationship with Kevin Hart?
It's good. I don't see him all the time due to both of our commitments, more his than mine. But when I do see him, you know, it's like old friends. When he was here, I was the one that would initially bring him up and down London and just kept him company during the times when you're not gigging.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have, as I said, he wasn't big. He didn't have security like that. And it was just me and him. So we went shopping in Harrods and that. I bought in Tinseltown.
You brought him to the beach.
Yeah, I know. That's the only, you know, you got an American that you think, what do you think, Rachel? You got an American relative or friend and you think, right, I'm going to bring them for something American. You got more choice now. You got like bird, lobster and different things. Back in 2004.
There wasn't that much. No, I'm sure he had a great time. While you were in America, did you manage to meet any of your other comedy heroes or hang out with anyone?
I did. Kevin came for me at my hotel and we went down to the Comedy Store and it was a special night. It was some kind of anniversary thing going on down there. But we reached down there and, I mean, you just look around, you think, who? He's from that film. Who? He's from Boys in the Hood. Who? There's Day. You're just like, you kind of starstruck. And, you know, introduced me to Mike X and a few other the stars out there, which, you feel humbled because you grow watching these people on TV and now you're being introduced to them, you know? So it's crazy, but it's humbling at the same time. So, wicked experiences.
So did you fangirl out on anyone?
You know what? I didn't. I know to hold it down. I'll be excited inside, you know, like ooh, 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 ooh. But I wouldn't show it, you know.
I think that's a Black trait. That's just like the pride in us is like, nah. So I'm not going to let them know that I'm fangirl crazy.
But every inchy inside's just dancing.
Exactly. So you feature in Mo Gilligan's documentary Black, British and Funny. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a documentary just to showcase the Black industry, comedy industry, which I think a lot of people mainstream doesn't realise that's there. Well, if they do, they don't think it's for them.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just to showcase the fact that we've been out here, we've been making the masses laugh for years. It's not just black people. We've been making all cultures laugh for years. You know, we've had shows like the Real McCoy, Desmond's. There's shows out there that prove that we can bring the laughter. And I think this program will highlight to the majority, being shown on the mainstream like Channel 4, it will highlight to a lot of people out there that there is an industry, thriving industry, and you're missing out.
I've been to plenty of your shows and I've left with my cheeks aching and belly hurting just from laughing so hard. Why do you think it's so difficult for Black British comedians to break out into the mainstream?
Again, I don't think that the people in charge, I always say this, and I make a point of saying it in interviews, it's not the audience. Definitely not the audience.
Yeah.
So the just general public, if you're funny, you're funny. You know, there's not all that politics wrapped up in it. It's more when it gets higher. Politics are wrapped up in stuff like colour. I've done shows where, you know, I'm the only black person in the room. Forget the audience, we're talking in the room. Most probably the neighbours at the time. And they love it.
Yeah.
If you're funny, you're funny. If I speak in general. I mean, we all share experiences, no matter what our colour, culture, you know, we all got kids. Our kids go to school. There's stuff that we can talk to, that we all can relate to. And that's what I try and hit upon in my comedy on stage. It might be from a black guy's perspective, but it won't be for black people. It will be for you, you know?
Yeah. It's a human experience that everyone...
It's a human experience,
Yeah, exactly. So what comics at the moment impress you?
It's strange, there's a lot of comics out there doing their thing. I don't really like calling people... You call out certain names. If you miss a name, they get upset, you know, when you miss their name. That means you don't
want it to be awkward for you.
No, you know what it is? Yeah, believe it or not, a lot of comics, they're very sensitive and get caught up in their...
I can imagine. It's
a crazy thing. But I like Kazim Jamal. I think he's a very talented comedian. In my comedians, I do tend to look for all-roundness. What does that mean?
Yeah.
You're not just funny to your own. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to say you're going to go into that level of comedy, you should be relatable to most people. Do you see what I mean to you?
Yeah, 100%.
So I think he's a good young up-and-coming all-rounder. Junior Booker. I do love. I think the guy's crazy. I mean, there's other guys. I mean, there's guys out there. You got internet comics. You got your likes of Christopher Savage. White Yardie does both. Quite well, because he does the internet and the stage. Kane Brown's a beast out there.
Yeah. We interviewed Kane. He's hilarious.
He's a beast. Absolute beast. He really is. And he's a nice person to boot.
Yeah, so,
lovely. Yeah.
So you're also an ambassador for Kyan Prince Foundation charity set up by Mark Prince.
Yeah.
How did you get involved with that?
Me and Mark are childhood friends. So I've known Mark since I've been about 13. And he was always one of the bigger lads. You know, sometimes you hang around with the bigger lads. So
yeah.
He's one of the bigger lads. He's from Tottenham. And we both grew up in church. That's how we kind of know each other. So over the years, obviously, we've had kids. Sadly, Mark lost Kyan to knife crime. And I've always followed his journey. And as I myself became something or some kind of standing in the community, it was just a case of, well, you know, people know who you are, blah, blah. Would you think to come on as an ambassador? To me, it's a no-brainer, because he's like, that's a big brother to me. So, I jumped on board, and, we went out to a school in Tottenham. We went down there, and we spent the afternoon with some of the kids that, you know, I don't like to say bad kids, but the ones that sometimes, you know, they're going through their thing and
troubled.
Yeah, they're not on the right path. So it was great, you know. We've done physical exercise and stuff, which I don't know why Mark chose. He's all right. He's an ex-boxer. He still keeps himself in shape. I smoke. I'm skinny. I don't know why.
Just brought you along to make you look good.
Yeah, you kind of have to do it because it's like kids, teenagers looking at you. Do you know, Rachel, if one of your friends who's like physically gave you a challenge in front of
you're going to have to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm lucky I didn't go to hospital that.
You're all right. You're still standing. Okay. So have you got any shows coming up or anything lined up?
I've got quite a few stuff lined up. I mean, right now, I don't like to say until paperwork's been signed, but it's looking good. But the future looks bright, Rachel. The future looks orange.
That is amazing to hear. So where can people follow you on socials? Instagram, Twitter, Facebook?
All my socials is Slim Comedian. Put that into Google, Slim Comedian, and all my stuff. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything comes up. Not on Snapchat, though. I leave that for the youngsters.
Yeah. So we're here to celebrate Black cinema, and you had to go and pick one that is close to my heart, but also quite painful to watch, for Coloured Girls, a Tyler Perry film. What made you pick for Coloured Girls? You
know, I had a couple, about 3 or 4 different films. I think for storyline, the story itself was a very strong story. 4 Black women, their lives going in different directions, and the way how they entwined it. I do love me with a story. I like how they entwine certain, you know, one life with another. Quentin Tarantino, I think, done that in Pulp Fiction. Yeah. Where, you know, entwine several characters' lives into one where they all meet at some point. So that was interesting how it played out. Just the story itself, it was a great, great film. It shows the struggles, not just Black women, but women on the whole go through. But it's nice to hear it from the voice or the perspective of that female. Black females, I don't think in general, on the whole, are seen as victims. See a vulnerable side and a truthful side. Yeah, it's just a great film. Yeah. I mean, the biggest shocker was the veteran.
Oh, honestly, that's why I was like, it's so difficult to watch because every time I'm like, he's not. You know, I know what's going to happen, but I remember the first time I watched that and I was like, are you... I think I would have literally murdered someone in that moment. Like, just... And you know, the Janet Jackson storyline. I feel... We'll get onto that, but I just feel like they skirted over that a little bit too... that's the only story that I feel... They didn't in depth. Yeah, because that's wild on so many levels. Like, that's just so wild. It wasn't just infidelity and you're gay and then you give me HIV. It was like... it was crazy. It was like so much. It was crazy. All the characters were strong characters. The film had a strong storyline. Yes, It was well acted. It was well directed. It was an all-rounder. As I said, I look for an all-rounder. And you do tear-jerkers in it, but there's also, you know, little sparks of humour, empathy, love, etc. That's wrapped up in all of that. And I just, I salute the film. I really do. I think what I was impressed by is the fact that it was a guy, you know, that chose this film. Usually I'd kind of expect one of the ladies to pick a film like this because there's such a direct connection. And so I was like, does he have sisters? Does he have like a strong female presence? And maybe that's why the film stood out to him. Maybe. I didn't think of it like that. My mum is like, that was my center of my life. When she was alive. So I didn't see all the time, just how we grew. And her gentleness and just shielding us from shit out there, you know. Sometimes we didn't realise the world was as bad as it was because she managed to shield us. Not, you know, you don't going anywhere kind of thing, but you don't need to harp on about everything bad in the world. Yes. So
And I go with big sisters. I'm the youngest out of my generation. My sibling.
Okay, right.
So I was always taught, back in the day, you were gentle with women. You tried to treat. That don't mean that I've never done a woman wrong. Like that looked like. You know what I mean?
No, I was about to say it for the people at the back. That's what I was about to say.
Yeah. But yeah, maybe I never thought about it like that. That's good. You're analysing. This girl's analysing.
No, it's because it's so female heavy, and there's only one decent guy in there, to be fair, and that's Kelly's husband, the police officer.
Yeah, that's correct.
Them are like just, so it was nice for you to see past that and just see the stories and the experiences that are being shared. And I was actually thinking, like, I need to put like a 10 must watch for Black men movies, because I think this is one of them. Like, I think we as women just assume that certain people know our experiences and understand. I've got brothers, and even they are sometimes a little bit oblivious to things. And I'm just like, you got sisters. We talk to you as much as we can, like, just kind of to educate them in the female experience, especially the Black human experience.
You lot do, you talk to us, but you lot don't get straight to the point. So after a while, we veer off. It's like kids. You ever know a kid want money to go to the shop, but they're in front of you and they're whining on about this and that, how pretty you, and you think, what do you want?
Okay.
If you're going for
Let's get to the point.
Get to the point, man.
Okay.
You take 2 hours, what could be said in like 10 minutes. You lot avoid each other if you lot are going for your monthly thing and the girl.
Oh my God.
No, I know. I live with a woman. She ain't gonna answer.
I've got sisters, and we actually don't.
You avoid each other.
No.
None at all.
No, not at all. Actually, I need that comfort. Actually, when it's I need all the love in the world. So,
are you the youngest one?
No, I'm the ignored middle child.
This is why needy. that's why it's Rach. Needy. Don't want to be left out.
After just analysing me, thanks for that.
I deal with a lot of middle children. I've got middle children as well. So
it's not our fault, okay? It's not our fault. I'm just going to defend us, all right?
But I will take something positive. You lot are triers. Maybe because of needness, you lot are the triers. The middle one will try to succeed to prove something. Yeah, I love it. So work on.
So going back to For Coloured Girls, who did you watch it with the first time you watched it, or did you watch it alone?
That's a good question. I watched it so much years ago. I might have watched it with relatives, because I was a Tyler Perry fan from Medea films.
Right.
But then you graduate, you realise, it's like Spike Lee. You know, when Spike Lee first came out and started to make films, Black people did start to watch, different, Do the Right Thing, Jungle Fever, Crooklyn, even the Crooklyn that we watched, which was more a musical thing. But yeah, he was a good director of it.
Do you prefer him doing serious stuff like this, or more the Medea, the comedy stuff?
I don't mind. I think that you do what you're good at, and I think he's good at both, because you got to remember, Medea, although it is more a comedy thing, there's a lot of serious storylines going in the film. Diary of a Mad Black Woman.
Yeah.
That was a deep film.
That was tough.
Where the guy threw the lady out of the house and moved the other lady in. I mean, that scene alone was disgusting.
Yeah.
And, the comedy side with her then getting the man back when, he fell down on the wayside and needed her help and all that. And, like, them knowing that, like, I remember the grandma said to her, "You're whooping that boy's ass, ain't you?" When she was scared, she goes, "How do you know?" Because remember, he done her so bad.
He done her so bad. Mm.
So, I mean, there's great storylines, even in the Medea.
Yeah.
Medea goes to jail or whatever,
He often talks about getting those stories from overhearing his mum talk to her friends or aunties and just being surrounded by women. He always feels like he would pick up the comedy aspect, but the serious aspect of it as well, and then put that in his films, which is quite cute.
I think all of us do in all kind of, even in comedy. If you watch comedy sketch shows, there's a good sketch show on TV called Familam.
Oh, I love Familam.
They take the pee out of like the aunties and that, and you know, and
that's stuff. Why I find it hilarious, because those are my aunties. That's what we see. You know, I think I saw the one about the Tupperware recently.
That kills it.
I was like, this is so true. This is
true.
When
it's true. Who brings Tupperware to a party?
The aunties
this is what we do. It's our cultural thing to take something home with us.
Yeah, because also, you know, we're going to overcook. We're going to make too much because we don't want to be the people that make enough for your guests. So there's this like...
Yeah, there's unnecessary food. There.
So, yeah. Exactly. So like you were saying earlier, what we love about For Coloured Girls is how it's 9 female stories, not necessarily black stories. It's just about the experience.
Anybody of any culture could be going through the same thing.
Exactly. It's not race carried. The plot just carries itself.
No.
How did you feel, like we spoke about obviously Janet Jackson's story and not kind of being, I think is the only one that isn't expanded on. How do you feel her performances as an actress? Do you think she should be doing more of that?
I do. I like, you know, strange enough, when that genre or that decade or era, I should say, I've used the wrong word, the era of rappers and singers, and that started to move into acting. It's like when the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air first came out.
Yeah.
This was just a popular, young, happy rapper, and they gave a TV series to. Will Smith's one of the biggest movie stars in the world now.
Yeah.
And believable in these roles. I think Janet's got the same. You have to remember, a lot of them, they've been trained in more than one. They call it triple threat. So a lot of them can sing, dance and act. J-Lo done it. And she done it quite successfully as well. So I think Janet's acting was passable. I don't know if you had a lot of critique, but I thought she played the part well. But she seems to have been brought up in like a household in turmoil herself. So
I mean,
she's deep for some of that.
Yeah, it's just she's a performing arts kid, really. You know, she done poetic justice, which I love, and I just kind of wish she'd done a bit more of that. But she played that very mean dragon lady quite well.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. I felt Thandie Newton was fantastic as well in her scatty, drunkard.
As I said, the cast itself, that was a star-studded cast.
Yeah, it was so nice.
That was definitely a star-studded cast. And all of them showed up on the day. When they, when they had to prove. I think that, as I said, I wouldn't have put that as one of my number one black films if I didn't think, people expect, you're 12 years old. Well, I want no film with no whipping me and all that. How am I gonna like that? So watch them. But after I grew up when Roots first came out. I was born in 72. So by 77, 6, 7, 8, Roots was on national TV. So I'm nearly 40 years later, I've seen.
You've seen it. I think as a community, we're kind of, we're over it. We're past that. And we're like, okay, what happened after? Tell us another story. If it's going to be centered around slavery, it needs to be something else.
Before. Look, you got the film The Purge. They bring out the other day the first Purge. Bring out what happened before, Terminator. They show what happened before all that started.
Yeah.
So with us, not just start at Roots.
No, but that's the danger if you start telling people what they were before it, We know how it goes, my dad. You know what I'm trying to say. So obviously Tyler gets a little bit of stick for the Medeas and some of the films that he puts out. They do really great at the box office. And people enjoy them, and clearly people go and see them. Why do you think that is? And it's hard. I think also when it comes to black creators, there's no room for failure. and there's like, oh, it has to be this. And it's like, no, why can't he just put out a gimmicky, silly film or TV series and someone just enjoy it? Because other people are allowed to do that in the mainstream.
I think once you get a position in the spotlight, in a black community, then you're everything to everyone. Then I'm not a comedian now. I'm also a counsellor, a preacher, activist. You got to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
And I think the danger a lot of people that are coming into the industry and are in the industry are doing is being led down that kind of path of people pleasing. And if you've got sensible parents, at some point in your life, one of your parents will say, you can't please everyone. You can't be everyone's friend.
Yeah.
You know, you're younger and you and a good friend maybe had an argument, 12, 13. You know, girls, you lot argue, friends off friends. And say, don't worry. Don't worry about that. You can't be everyone's friend. So if you're trying out there to please everyone, you will fail. Tyler Perry is successful enough. This is how I see business. Even myself. I try and please as much people as I can, but I'm realizing that you can't please everyone in life. So my job is to collect as much people that enjoy what I do that I can make a living off.
Yeah.
Tyler Perry's clearly done that.
Yeah.
You can't please everyone. You make a film, you should have done this. Why didn't you do a story about that? Why are you wearing a dress? Why are you this? Do people go out and watch his films? He wouldn't become a billionaire.
Yeah, exactly.
By no one buying his products. So you've got to weigh up all the time. It's like any salesman. How much product you sold to how much product you didn't sell.
And it's quite funny now because he's being hailed as this like leader for opening up his own studio, which for me, honestly, I think it was a monumental moment in my life. And how he did it, where he did it, all of that, and the ceremony was just beautiful. And so now it's kind of like everyone's like, oh, I see now the Medea's led to this. And so sometimes it's like he could see the bigger picture and what he was leading towards, and he just kind of had to be tunnel visioned and keep going. Because otherwise, like you said, if you listen to people and was like, oh, no one's going to like it, or I'm not making this side of the community happy, then I need to stop. We would not have a Tyler Perry Studios and people go to him to make movies. What do you think this means in terms of progress in Hollywood for us?
It means that you got a stronger hold because you now do not have to rely on people to make the productions for you. When you got your own, I mean, he was making his own stuff anyway, but he needed studios to do it in.
Because you still have to pay the studios if you're using their locations. And
like anything in business, once you're self-sufficient, you go, ain't you? You don't have to rely on a supplier of any kind. You're good to go. And he's made himself in the film industry self-sufficient.
Thinking about Colour Girls, what scenes stood out to you?
You see, I don't want to give away the film. Unless I'm allowed.
We can talk about that. It's fine.
You know the scene. You know the scene which stood out to me.
Okay.
The scene that gripped everybody was the scene where the father, the veteran that came back from the war and was having problems, psychological problems, and was drinking and all that.
Yeah.
And he resented the woman going out and trying to make something of herself. If you remember, she was at work.
Yeah, what I loved about that in all of her heartbreak and torture is Phylicia's character, Gilda, basically saying, what role did you play? Like taking responsibility. And I was just like, that is the deepest thing to say to someone in this amount of pain, going through this amount of trauma, but also checking ourselves to be like, this could have been, you're here and you need to take some sort of ownership for what's happened. I thought that was so hard but honest at the same time, and it's like
that is our elder generation. I like that. Sometimes our elder generation give you the truth. That's why we love them. And some
they tell you how it is.
All our friends around us, they think it like what you think. No, we can't say that to her. No. Older ones, our auntie will say, well, what did you do?
To be fair, I am that person. I am that person.
You're the middle pick-me.
I am the one that will always be like, but what did you do?
Yeah,
which gets me in trouble, but it's like, I wouldn't be helping you if I'm just blindly siding with you and you're not, like, that's not going to help you progress as a human being. So,
see, it's hard to watch, but you couldn't fault her for saying that to her.
No, of course not.
You see what I mean? It was hard.
And once she said that to her, she said that to her, she almost could like breathe and be like, she said it out aloud. It was obviously something that she was thinking about, but couldn't bring herself to say it. And by Gilda saying it, it made her
release that. That was a deep thing, man.
There was so many scenes in that, and I think, like you said, it was so elegantly put together, like the intertwining of the different stories and the characters, all the way up to the point in the hospital when, you know, the different stories collided together.
Yeah,
and it was like each story was so traumatic and heartbreaking, but it wasn't like a competition. It wasn't like whose life is the shittest.
No, it wasn't.
It was just like, this is just another day. This is what I'm going through. This is my troubles, but I'm just going through my day. Like the kind of the nurse aide, Juanita.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was like she put on this happy face and she's here trying to educate these women and make them smile and really positive person. But in her own life, you know, it's that's, you know, that is the beautiful thing, because that happens in real life. I mean, if you remember Robin Williams, rest in peace. I mean, he took his own life. And, do you know what I mean? So it's to show you. You think, well, how can you be entertaining? But some people like that. You have to put on a face. You never know what's going on in somebody else's life sometimes. Exactly. No matter how much they're smiling. I think it definitely encourages, like, one, don't judge a book by its cover, but also have conversations. You know, you don't know what someone else is going through, no matter how happy or all the good stuff they post on social media. Shout out to my young ones.
Have they made life too busy?
Yeah.
For you to have that interaction or notice that somebody's going through. Because now it appears if you don't put up on your social network, there's something wrong with you. People... Yes. I'm actually type on Instagram or something, man, I'm feeling down as fuck, you know, I'm depressed, before you get any kind of attention. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm part of the old school. I like to call people and just check out, have a conversation. I'd rather do that than send like 100 text messages. I just find that really jarring, but that's me. So where do you rank For Colored Girls in Tyler Perry's filmography?
Good question. So you can't beat a good Medea, man. Even like a film called Meet the Browns.
Okay,
with Angela Bassett.
Yeah, Queen. Bloody love her.
That was, again, another great film. It's really hard because that film, again, was great. You know, the storyline of the deadbeat dad that didn't want to help out. And I'm not saying that's the narrative of all men. Because, as you know, in the film, you see people that was willing to take on her and her children and that. So it's all the good side of everything. It would have to be the Four Colored Girls, because I think the other ones got comedy and good storylines, and like that was straight. I think it's just the entwining of the story.
It's so intelligently put and cleverly done. And you don't realise as time goes. And like when I was watching it, I never felt like, oh, I need this film to like hurry up. No. It was really, I was really engrossed, and I was like, oh God, I prepared myself this time with tissues. I knew what was coming in each story, like the one with Whoopi and Thandie when they have their fight. That scene is so beautiful and heartbreaking all at the same time. But what you were saying earlier, I also like Daddy's Little Girls with Idris Elba.
I haven't seen that yet.
It was nice because it was like the dad actually, the mum's the deadbeat, and he's trying to look after his daughters and he loves them. And it's got Gabrielle Union in it as well. I think those two are probably one of my two favourites of Tyler Perry's.
Yeah, I actually watched a film on Netflix a couple of days ago called Old Boy.
Oh, okay, yes.
That is a good storyline with a twist.
The remake, because there's two. There's the original.
This one has, what's the guy's name?
Josh Brolin.
There you go.
Yeah. That's the remake.
Charles Bronson, you know.
Did you imagine?
Yeah. So that's a Spike Lee.
Yeah, and that's a Spike Lee. One of the I know.
Great twist.
Yeah.
Crazy. That was a crazy twist, but yeah, great. It was not until the end you start saying no.
Yeah. I might have to watch that again actually.
Yeah. Great little twist in there. Do you like that?
So for anyone who hasn't watched For Colour Girls, and if you were to show them one scene from the film, what part would you direct them to?
It'd have to be that part, but I'd cut it at a certain point. But it'd have to be the dad on the phone. You just don't expect. You don't expect.
Yeah. Looking in from the outside, you can clearly see where this is heading, and you're just like, get out.
Yeah, but you wouldn't think it would end in that.
No, of course. It's heading somewhere bad, but it's not. You wouldn't think the worst, which is the worst.
I ain't gonna lie, I was upset in the film for at least 15 minutes after.
I sobbed like a baby last night.
Man, you know what I mean?
I was sobbing like a baby last night when I watched it again. I just couldn't. I was just like crying so much. I think aside from that scene, I would probably direct people to Yasmin's monologue when she's in hospital and she's been raped.
Yes.
She does this really intense, amazing monologue, and it basically questions just because, everything, the situation, and she's been asked all these ridiculous questions just because it was in her house, so therefore she wanted it. And I just think it really hits the nail on the head with consent, the vulnerability of being a woman, and just taking someone's word, this is what happened. I don't have to explain myself to such detail for you to fully understand the violation that she's just occurred. But I thought she was just brilliant. Really,
it's a top film. As I said, there's nothing, I can't fault none of the acting. Sometimes people act and you think, this and, but that. Who
was your favourite, if you had to pick one performance?
Janet Jackson and her husband, great scene where they had to talk, obviously. You see, this is the thing. If you notice, I keep going back to that because I'm a dad. Maybe that's why it is.
Yeah, and yes.
Do you see what I mean? So although I love to watch the film and empathise with the ladies on what you go through.
Because for me, it was the yes, of course, that scene is traumatic, but that rape scene with looking at the time and the way it happened and the build-up, and you can kind of see his whole action change. Yeah. I actually, just talking about it now brings me so much anxiety. It was just so brilliantly done. And it's it counted it in real time. I think that's what's painful. So that minute felt like an hour watching that. And it was just really put you in the mindset of capturing her trauma in that moment, and then the realization of okay, let me just wait for this to be done. And then the molestation through generations of Whoopi and daughters, and then the resentment, and having sisters, and there's a real turmoil relationship between mothers and daughters sometimes, and there's this history that she was unaware of and that played a part in it. And it was so there was just all these different elements that you could see, sister rivalry, and obviously she was jealous because she hadn't been harmed in that way. And so she kind of put her in harm's way to feel that pain that she was feeling. I could go on. There was just so many different...
Go watch the film, people. Go and watch
Go watch For Colour Girls.
We could bang on about this for a good long while.
Slim, you have been amazing, and it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to one of my heroes. It's been awesome. I'm just going to wish you the absolute best. I hope the rest of your 2020 is amazing.
Likewise. Thank you very much for having me on the show, Rachel. Pick up the podcast watchers and listeners and all that. You see, I'm old. I don't know if you watch it.
No, we will put this on YouTube as well, so people will be able to.
Right, okay then.
Thanks, Lim.
Thank you very much, Rach.